All right, I think we are live. Going to be talking about what's in the picture. Got the Burson Audio Conductor X3, 3X, 3X. I don't know why I keep calling it X3. It's in my head that way. Anyhow, hello everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. I stayed up way too late last night hunting very tall vampires, playing video games. um, so kind of wanted to talk about the Burson. I'm going to be sending it off tomorrow to Precog, so he'll be getting it hopefully early next week. Comes with. There we go. We can do this. I have it on auto. I don't have it on auto. I have it on auto. It's just not wanting to play nice. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay too. But anyways, come on, camera. Focus, focus. Not wanting to focus. Do I need to hit back button? Focus. Oh, that's why I'm not in movie mode. Bet you that's why it was heating up and overheating the other day too. Oh, come on. Do it. Camera. It's wanting to do. Am I not in autofocus? Manual focus. Autofocus. Camera, play nice with me, please. Anyhow, comes with controller, little Burson thing, tiny. It is what it is. Works pretty good actually. I actually prefer the volume control with this one, with the remote. The volume knob itself is a little bit not my favorite. I'm gonna pull this bad boy up here. So we'll discuss this. So this is also the so here's the back. There it goes. Now autofocus. Well, now autofocus is working. So it's pretty awesome because you get a bunch of or XLR input or the inputs and outputs going on there. Another cool thing about this is you have coax. Where am I at here? There you go. Coaxial, optical, Bluetooth. So Bluetooth module, not nodule. And then actually it's a USB-C. So USB-C input. And so this is the a lot tired. This one is the dealer specific demo unit. So they have a clear top so you can see how the OpAmps work and how it looks inside. And they have this blazing bright LED strips on either side that just light up a room. And also, because they have the cutout of the aluminum top, this gets a little bit hotter than would probably be normal for a standard model. But it is cool looking. I like to see the insides. That's very, very cool. And then it's just a aluminum case all the way around. Nothing too crazy. It's actually pretty light as well. And then there's the front. You can see the light shining through the things. You have your, where am I at? Reverse. Your input. So if you click that, it will, come on, don't focus on me, camera. There we go. You have your input. You can change to USB, optical, the different XLRs, Bluetooth, that kind of deal. So you can see how that works. And then you have your output, which will change between the different outputs here and on the back. And then you have settings, where are settings, which allows you to do a bunch of different fun stuff in there. Yeah. And then you can also, this button at the other side here, if you turn it sideways, it turns it to sideways mode. So you can stack it like a book, which I think is pretty darn cool. Yeah. Anyways, so that's the general layout of this thing. But speaking of the volume knob, it's good. It has kind of like a clickiness to it, but not too crazy. Hey, what's up, Carlos? What's up, Kareem? What's up, my man? Yeah, the lights are super bright. Hey, Aiko, what's going on? But yeah, and then there's also a weird quirk with this. Apparently, that some of these have with the volume at a certain point, the volume actually dips and then comes back up after, like, it's like 50. There's like this point where the volume actually lowers, even though it doesn't say it's lowering. And I think it's on a couple different websites that have documented it. I haven't really noticed it too much with them. This one, it does do it, but not as drastic as what I've seen others do it with. Not as drastic as others say how they hear it. So kind of want to do a thing today. I'm not sure how we're gonna kind of go over this, but so I've had this for a while, and I like it a lot. It's probably one of my, as far as sound profiles, I really enjoy the sound profile out of it. The Bluetooth is really cool. Like you can just throw your, you can literally like put your phone, connect it, listen through that, and it has an ESS DAC in there. So actually one of the better implemented ESS DACs as well. I'm not usually a fan, but this one I'm actually, I can dig on it the way they implemented it. And also I think with the OpAmps it allows for a little warmer signature, which helps kind of curb helps with the brightness. Android, what's going on? Sam and Elnrick, what's going on? What about power? Does it drive the Susvara? This thing does get pretty powerful. I don't have a Susvara to test it against, but maybe after Precog's done with it, we can get it out to Android and he can use his to test it. But it's pretty powerful. I'd have to look it up. I haven't really looked at the stats or what have you on it. And most of the headphones I'm using, it powers plenty well. My VCs, VOs, all the focals I have on hand, the HD800s actually sound pretty good on it. It kind of reminds me of a tube hybrid, the sound signature of it. So that's kind of interesting. It's a fun listening amp, and it's pretty versatile. Sorry, let me get my camera better. Pretty versatile. I'm digging on the versatility of it, as with with the remote, the fact that you can have it Bluetooth, all the inputs and outputs on the back with the XLR is pretty nice, and it also it's pretty simple too. Like it's just an easy to use thing. Like I didn't have any problems trying to figure out how to go through the different settings and what have you. Pretty plug and play. It's pretty expensive. I believe this is the Conductor X3, so this was, I think, their showcase model, so it's going to be a little expensive. I'm going to try and compare it against the Sony ZH-1ES today. I'll be using XLR with that, and maybe if we have time, I'll go to the Hugo TT2 direct as well and try and play with that as well and compare. I think that's more of a closer comparison, because I believe, not that I want to compare with price range, but it would be the Sony would be the lowest cost, then it would be the Burson, and then to the Hugo TT2 for cost evaluation wise. But I really don't. I mean, price wise, I think it's a decent price, and you can also go in and swap out OpAmps, so you can kind of tune the signature that way as well. And that's one of the kind of benefits of the Burson stuff, is they have, well, that's what they do. They also make OpAmps. So yeah, so you can go in, swap out OpAmps if you like, and play with it that way. And get different. It's almost kind of like tube swapping to some level. You get the OpAmp swapping. I didn't really play with it too much because I like the stock ones. But it is a thing you can do, and it's just like basically pop them out, pop them in, good to go. So I'm gonna use the Stellias today for this little fun experiment. And kind of go over my thoughts with this. Like I was saying, it reminds me of so Sam, the price tag on this I believe is around $3,000. So it's definitely a bit of change for this piece of kit. The volume, the trusty remote, get the volume down. It's something nice. I mean, I wish more things had remotes, or even like it'd be really cool if you could, like, if they found out if there's a way to like integrate with like your phone to be a remote and control everything. I think that would be really cool. But anyways, I like remotes. Remotes are great because it helps with just everyday quality of life. Oh, is it only 2.2 Android? I was way off. Thanks, man. That shows how much I've been paying attention to the cost of this thing. So I know. I mean, so it's actually more in line with the Sony at that point, which was going in standby mode. So I might have to turn that back on in a little bit. But anyways, let's get some signal to noise going. And nice. This is a great album for a Sunday. So the one thing, I have it in, I believe, low gain mode right now. Yeah. And so with low gain, it powers the focal stuff perfectly. And even, like, as long as you don't mind turn the volume up pretty high, it powers everything else I have on hand as well. But high gain does give it that little extra oomph. and can be a little overwhelming as well with some of the other. So I'm going to turn it back down. Go back into this level. There we go. Whoa. So I went to high gain, and I'm at 1 on the volume, and it's almost too loud for me. So for power wise, and these are sensitive, so just something to take into account there. You definitely don't need to be rocking these too loud. Like they're the high gain mode is plenty powerful for most things. For most things. I'm trying to change it back because I was like, lots of volume. But back to low gain we are. And a lot more play in the volume knob now. Like I'm pushing up into like the 30s with the Focal Stellias. But see then, so back to the sound of this. This is running off the ESS Saber DAC right now. That's in the module that's inside the actual Burson as an all-in-one. That's the other thing that's kind of fun with these is a lot of times all-in-ones compromise something, and for me, I do think that the compromise with this would be the DAC. Because when I pair it with the TT2, it just gets the TT2 DAC. It's got that little bit of better DAC factor into it. Yeah, and much cheaper for the non-reference. So yeah, going into sound profile, Sam, with the internal DAC, it does have a little bit of bright, like a shimmer and brightness, but not overwhelming. It doesn't bother me. It's actually like a mellow. It reminds me of like a really clean tube hybrid is what the sound profile reminds me of. It's got this like good stage, good solid state kind of like cleanliness to it, but then there's this layer of warmth that I think the OpAmps are bringing to the table that kind of helps with that shimmer and also brings the low end a little bit more. As far as imaging and detail are really good. I mean, I'm just saying obviously with the Stellias are a big factor of this right now as well. It's fast. I'm not getting quite the same warmth I would get with the ECP-T4, but I'm kind of getting that similar like tube hybrid like smoothness. So yeah, I would say it's probably like one of the closest tube hybrid solid states I've listened to. Like it just has this really nice smoothness to it, and it's got a little bit of warmth that really lets it kind of cut through some other reasons. Like I don't know, because a lot of times like solid states can be just a little bit too clinical, even like the really good implemented ones. And this one is clean, but it doesn't. Like I said, it has that nice layer of smoothness and warmth to it that the OpAmps, I believe, are what's bringing to the table. And then the detail is really excellent. It does feel pretty wide. Like I do feel like I'm getting a little bit wider stage with it for whatever reason with the Stellia. Could just be what have you, but like the brightness factor. The imaging and separation is really good. Picking up a lot of the different pieces there in this track. And this track's a little bit complicated. There's a lot of stuff going on. Not super complicated, but enough. It's fast. It's definitely fast. Like so when I'm hearing like the hi-hats and the snares and what have you, it's going, hey, Precog, what's going on, man? I was just talking about you. Your ears are burning. The hi-hats definitely feel snappier. And like the snare and like hitting the drums feel a little snappier than what I'm used to with like a tube hybrid or even like even with the Hugo TT2, I'd say. But we can get into that here in a little bit. In fact, maybe I'll swap over to the Walkman, the Sony ZH1ES. Let's see here. I need to go to USB. All right, so USB. We're now switching to the wonderful Walkman. Bring the volume down because I don't think it's pretty high. Hopefully I wasn't wearing these backwards the whole time. Bring this back, switch this to ZH, and noise. Okay, so on the Sony, has more of that like clean sound that like a proper solid state would have, right? Also slightly more forward and punchier. Like the bass is more forward and punchy, if that makes sense. But the stage kind of came back in. Like the stage isn't as wide as with the Burson. And this is all in one. I'm not using external DACs. These are the internal DACs for both of these. So I'd say this one is a little bit more punchy and a little more forward, but the stage is less. The warmth is brought down. Like smoothness, if that makes sense. Still a good listen. They're both like they're doing different things a little bit here, but it's very mild. I mean, the biggest difference takeaway I'm getting is that there's a little more shimmer and stage on the Burson, and then there's this nice smooth like warmth through the whole profile. But then there's still a little more shimmer on the there's a little more detail, it feels like, with the Burson. Yeah, I think I picked up more detail with the Burson. A little better imaging, a little bit better separation. It's slight, but it's there once you hear it. Hey, Dennis from the Netherlands, thanks for joining. Simon, what's up? Oh wow, sounds. Yeah, that's. So right away, I would say the biggest thing, like the mids, also feel slightly more like just a lot of it seems like pushed in and then more forward with the Sony, whereas the conductor, the Burson, a little bit wider. The depth, also depth might be a little bit like a little more deep with the Burson. Like so, the stage is a lot better, I think, with the Burson. Interesting. And then the Sony has more of the kind of brought in and forward. Still really good imaging and separation, but I think that the Burson takes it on that for me. Just doing this quick back to back. I do like the way that they both present well, and I like both presentations. But if I was to choose, also there's a bit more brightness on the like the treble like shimmer. It was a little bit better with the Burson as well. Like I get a little bit more of that. I don't know. It leans more to the brighter side, and that might be the Saber DAC that's kind of being tagged in there right now, and that could be what's doing that. And also the punchiness of this. There's a little bit more punchiness to the Sony, so kind of interesting. Yeah, I guess what I can do now. Actually, I'm gonna go back to the Burson, and then I'll switch from the Burson back to. I'll throw the TT2 on. Throw this adapter in. The TT2. That way I can get that going. So we'll listen to the signal noise with the Burson. Switch out. I need to get runes so I can just swap these out rapidly. I've been lazy. I haven't done it yet. Let's see here. Wasabi. All right. Yeah. So a little bit wider. The low end isn't as like punchy as the Sony. Like the bass, and even the kick drum, like it's there, but it's not as like punchy. But the piano and the highs are, and the hi-hats are definitely a little more crisp and like detailed. So interesting that's there. And then the Sonys are definitely more focused on the low end with the punchier low end. It's kind of, they're almost opposites, if that makes sense. Like where the Sony has more of a focus on the low end, and then the Burson has more of a focus on the high, like the mids to high. So like they're like this would be the Burson, this would be the Sony as far as like a frequency graph, I guess. My take on it. Just quick hot take on it. And then yeah, man, the stage, it's definitely wider with the Burson. Depth, kind of on par, but it's a little bit further. It's a little more like, I don't know how to say this. Like it has more of a wraparound feeling, whereas the Sonys were just more forward. I think my TT2 is ready to rock. Bring the volume down that, and we'll switch out to that, and we'll give that a go. So now we're switching TT2 compared to the Burson. Let's see here. We even have this connected. For some reason, it's not recognizing the TT2. I don't know what's going on there. So we might not be able to compare to the TT2. I was noticing this earlier as well, where 2 is not playing along very well. I wonder if it got unplugged somehow. Unplugged? Maybe I'm accidentally unplugged my. Oh. Sorry for the up close and personal action here. Can't seem to. This is plugged in. I think my. That is not good. Yeah, it did get unplugged. There we go. There it is. Now we're working with fire. All right, sorry about that. Somehow it got unplugged. So we're switching to the TT2, signal to noise, volumes down, and hitting play. It's Terrence, what's going on? That's Rhino, what's going on? Martin, evening. Oh man. So the Hugo TT2 as an all-in-one. It's like it took both of these other ones and was like, put them together, and then upped it to another level for me. And I also like the TT2. Like it's a sound signature I really like and enjoy. But it's also 2 times, 3 times more expensive than these other two. So take that for what it is, right? So yeah, it's like if you took the other two, combined them, and then turned up, and everything's better across the board. Yeah, it's not a Tyler's Eclectic stream, you guys, unless there's some technical difficulties. Come on, it wouldn't be eclectic if there wasn't difficulties happening. Yeah, that's fantastic. That is. But I would say, now that we have that kind of in place, as far as my quick back to backs on these, I think what I'll do is I'm going to remove from the equation the other all-in-ones, focus back on the Burson. But now I'm going to plug in the TT2 as the DAC, move the ESS. That's another thing too, is like it's kind of tough because they don't really label the back of the XLRs for like what's right and left, and I have to just look up the manual. But anyways, neither here nor there. Now let's remove this. Go. Input will be XLR1, and we will switch to the Burson. Johnson, the TT2 is a proprietary chord DAC. So it's like you can get the cutest, you can get the Hugo, or something along those lines, and they're just proprietary chord DACs. I believe they're like an R2R, but they do a custom kind of deal. That's their jam. Anyhow, so remember what I was talking about before. If you haven't joined earlier, but if with the ESS built-in DAC module on the Burson, I had more of this kind of skewed upward towards from the mids and the treble, right? Signature. So now with the Hugo TT2, let's see what happens. Let's swap it back. We have the TT2, I believe, still on. Yep, so we're still good. So now we need to bring this back up to here. And so it basically took the same signature as the TT2 that I just said, was like that really nice. Everything kind of got more balanced across the board, a little more punchier, and the bass is much more punchy. There's a nice balance to the mids and the highs now, and the amp is really starting to shine. Like, it still has that nice width, but now it's giving me that TT2 like smoothness and detail and punch, and just yes. I like that combo. This is a good combo. The TT2 on top of the Burson is really nice. It just, and then this is when it really starts to bring even more into that that tube hybrid signature. Like, this is the closest I've had for a solid state to be a tube hybrid. Pretty interesting, and it really fleshes out and brings it out. So I would say, someone asked earlier that let's see here, JTB Burson Soloist 3X. Yes, it will pair very nicely with the Bifrost. I don't think I have. I should have done that, but just lovely, this pairing. I'm probably talking way too loud because Closed back. Let's see here. Yeah, the enjoyment factor, and like, just for just pure enjoyment, switching to the Hugo TT2 to that is it it brings up my personal enjoyment factor much higher. So I definitely think that the weakness, so usually with all-in-ones, there's a weakness to something of it, right? Like, so for the TT2, it's the amp is probably the weakest link in that, which is ridiculous because it's a fantastic amp. I would say the weakest link in the Sony ZA-20S would probably be, I would say, the DAC on that as well, for the all-in-one, not the. So the Hugo TT2 is really, the DAC is it what shines. The Sony, the amp is what shines, and I would say also with the Burson, that the amp is what's really taking center point and shining, because you with pairing with other dedicated DACs, the Burson definitely starts to come to life a lot more, and it isn't being held back by the Saber DAC. Because I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but I'm not the biggest Saber DAC fan. I still need to hear the likes of like the Element X Pro or something like that, because that gets lots of praise. But most Saber DACs I tend to not agree with greatly. This one I'm okay with, and there's a couple of A&K DAPs that have them, the ESS, that are pretty good, that I've been liking. But outside of that, it's it's usually more of a miss for me for the ESS stuff, which sucks because the AKM fires are really putting a hurting on the AKM chips. Words. Yeah. Yeah, it was a long night, man. I was hunting a very tall vampire all night last night, like a weirdo, and then I went on another tangent of looking up pocket knives, because that seemed like a good thing to do at 12 o'clock at night till 1 in the morning. So let's get back into this. I had the Conductor 3X for a few weeks on tour. It was great in my opinion, but I think the Soloist 3XP plus a better DAC is the move to make. Yeah, I agree. Like, so well, yeah, take what you will, right? But I do think that anytime there's an all-in-one where you have everything's all bunched into one thing, usually there's some kind of weak link, and I think for these it's the DAC. For the TT2, it's the amp, which not really, because the amp on that is still fantastic. But it does tend to start to shine more when you pair it with other amps. The Burson, though, the amp's really fantastic. Have you ever listened to the Hyphen Aria, and are you ever going to make a review? I have listened to the Aria, and did I do a review of it? I might have had it. I think I did do something. I did like an impressions of it, or I had it for, maybe it was like on the side. But the Aria, I feel, is the it's the HD800 of the planar world. It's very close to the HD800, H800S, with a little bit more balance to it, I'd say, than the HD800 overall. But I do think there's a unique quality to the HD800s that allows them to kind of, for me personally, outshine. I'm more of a dynamics guy. So I found the H800 was more to my preference over the Aria. But I do think the Aria is right. It's basically the H800 of the wonderful audio world, the planar world. Brain using words. Yeah, JTB words. Have you ever listened to I did that one? Also, I had a chance to roll OpAmps, but didn't. Yeah, I had the chance to roll them as well. And then everyone I was talking to that did roll, the ones that that came with this one particularly, said it pushed it more towards the direction I didn't really want to go with it. And also, I was kind of lazy. I'm not gonna lie, kind of lazy. And I actually really like the current setup, and so it just didn't really pull me away from it. And I like the stock setup for this. It sounds great for me, especially when paired with like the TT2. And I should have left it hooked up, but I did try it with the Bifrost 2, and I did like it a lot with that. It really allowed the amp to shine and allowed them to pair real well. And then there was another thing I was going to try, which was the RME ADI2, which is another all-in-one. But at the end of the day, I think the RME ADI2, as an all-in-one, its amp is really the weakest link, and then also its DAC is fantastic, but still isn't as good as it could be. Like I think the Bifrost 2 is a little bit better as a dedicated DAC, but the thing that the RME has that really makes it shine is its functionality. It just has so much you can do with all the EQ and everything like that. Not that I EQ, but it is, there's just a lot of functionality in that allows you to really tweak to your desire. But I think that's just a different beast entirely. I think that's for people that really want to dive into the weeds of like, tweaking everything to their desire and making it just theirs. But back to the Burson, I've been having a good time with it, to be honest. I'm gonna be a little upset to see it go. I think Precog will enjoy it. And yeah, it's a great little setup, and the amp is powerful. I mean, like I said, you put it into high gain, and I'm literally one. It's almost too much for these. So that's something to be aware of. And it's the sound signature that I could probably most TLDR on this would be that of by itself with the Saber. It's more of it loses a little bit of the punchiness and low end that something like the Sony or the TT2 has. But if you give it an external DAC to pair with it, it really brings that back up and balances it out, and the amp really starts to shine, because then you can get a little bit more balance in it, because it can punch, and it's got power, and it's got a nice signature, and it's got this like nice like blanket of warmth over it that's not like overwhelming or bearing. Like, I'm not sweating or anything like that, but it's got this nice smoothness to it that just really lets it shine, and that's why it reminds me of like a tube hybrid. So lovely little setup. So get into some of these questions some more. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm kind of new to the hobby, JTB asks, but for me it seems a dedicated DAC to an amp sounds nice. Yes, and I think that's just, in general, it's very rare for an all-in-one to really perform on all levels. I'd say the TT2 is the closest I've ever been to that. But yeah, I would recommend anything so far outside of that scenario. I would recommend getting dedicated setups, dedicated amp DACs. Another one that was pretty decent for a lower cost was the JDS Labs Element. I think Element 2, Element 1, Element 2. I haven't heard the Element 2, but I hear good things. That was another good one that was pretty good for the bang for the buck for an all-in-one. Any pairings for the audio? What's going on? I also drank too much whiskey last night hunting all vampires. Let's see. Good pairings for whiskey with the Burson. If I'm using the Saber, it's a little bit bright, so I'd go with a warmer bourbon probably. If I'm pairing it with the Bifrost, it's a little more balanced, but it still has a little bit more. Not, I was gonna say muted, but that's not right. Kind of. It's more balanced, but not as like engaging as the TT2. But that's neither here nor there. So, but if I was pairing with the Bifrost 2, I would say a little neutral, maybe like a rye, like a good rye, a Sazerac maybe, if I paired it with Bifrost 2. So for the bourbon, I'd probably go with, let's see, Maybe something from Heaven Hill or Buffalo Trace would probably be a good one for the bourbon for if it was by itself with the Saber DAC. And then if I'm pairing it with the Hugo TT2, I want something that has a lot of complexity and a lot of like just, you know, details that you can pull from it. I'd probably go with something like, actually the most recent thing I just had last night, first drink, was this Balcones Brimstone. And it has like a scotch, but there's also a lot of sweetness to it. That one would be a kind of fun one to pair with it as well. So something a little more complex with the, just to give it that little, you know. Anyways, and yeah, Taryn, my man, Sunday easy chill stream, hopefully. And let's see here, back to the other questions. Rickson, curious, why are opinions so divided on the Stellia? Stellia, I didn't know they were divided. I know that a lot of people don't like the colorway. I didn't like the colorway for the longest time until I got my own. I actually prefer the Stellia over almost all the other focals, and to the point where literally this is the only focal I currently own. And I've owned all of them, and or I've had all of them in house at one point or another. And they're all, I love focal. Like focal is my kind of like my love for ZMF, and focal are, I love ZMF a little bit more, but focal is like my other favorite headphone on the market, headphone maker. So that being said, I think that the Stellia could be divided because it's also a focal thing. A lot of people don't like focal for whatever reason. That's whatever. Let's see. They're a little bit warmer. They're fast. Actually, I don't really have any complaints about that other than stage. Like, I would really have no complaints with the Stellia. I personally really like them. They're a little bit warmer. They remind me of a warmer Utopia, is what they kind of remind me of. Not as much speed or detail as the Utopia, but it's right there. And then they're a little bit more warmth to them, a little more character. Let's see. Lucas, I should be getting a name, Unity Anim. Oh, I have the Nova, and it's lovely. And it's so easy to set up. I use my phone for a lot of it. The name stuff is fantastic. I really like the name stuff. So yeah, the headphone edition should be. I haven't heard the headphone edition, but the name stuff in general, I'm a big fan of. So I look forward to hearing what your thoughts are on the headphone edition. Ace Spades, do you have any issues with the remote not working from 5 to 8 feet away? Let's test this. Let's do this, Ace. Let's see here. It's about 4 to 5 right now, so let's go a little bit further. So we're probably talking, I don't know, I don't know if I'm even in the scene here. I'm probably about 6 feet right here. Getting any misclicks? Maybe a couple little misclicks here and there. So further away. I don't know why I'm holding my headphones still. Let's go way back here, which is about 8 feet, I'd say. Oh yeah, nothing, not a thing. But nope, there one. If I get more direct, a little bit better. But back here, yeah, it's about hit or miss. Just past 5 to 6 feet, it gets hit or miss. The remote does. So science, just for you guys. Let's see. It's bright. That was the only issue I noticed. Also, for pairing, I found the DAC was a bit bright, but paired well with LCD. Yeah, so that's what I was trying to say. Is like the Saber DAC in there is a little bit bright. It definitely leans more towards like the mids and uppers. And that's where like I actually really enjoy it paired with the Stellia, and that might be why I like the Stellia with this one so much, is because it's a little bit warmer of a headphone. Funny enough, I liked it with my Verite Closed, but I preferred it with my Verite Opens. That were actually what I preferred listening with it on. But then when I switched to the Hugo as my DAC, all of them sounded fantastic. It really the DAC helps with the external DAC, really fleshes this thing out and really brings it to its own. And any tips on Whiskey Pro? Okay, we did that one already. Yeah. What headphones would pair best tonally with the Burson, and why was it any? And yeah, so actually kind of nailed that as well, Elric. So the ZMFs do pair very well with this because it is that little bit of a warmth to it. So it has that tubiness that ZMFs like really do well with. But I've noticed, I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but some tube amps, ZMFs pick up tube noise for whatever reason way more than some other headphones will. And so it's kind of a nice compromise with the Burson because it has that little bit of that warmth that tubes give you. But then it pairs well with the ZMFs because then it allows them to kind of have that ZMF uniqueness with tubes without having that tube noise. If somebody was, gets irritated by tube noise, or like the, signal noise, then the Burson would be a good opportunity for them to kind of see what everyone's talking about with, ZMF and tubes to some level. It really does kind of have that nice pairing, and I really did like that as well with it. It's the most tubey solid state I've heard to date, without being tubey. Let's see. No worries, Dennis. I'm hoping Taryn will be shipping in a bottle of whiskey to pair with the OG Clear when they ship. Whiskey's expensive in Canada, my man. So maybe, who knows? You can't really ship across. You need a liquor license to ship across lines. That would be fantastic. That would be get a liquor license, buy your headphones and whiskey for whiskey pairing and headphones. There's a business model for you. Hey Martin, yeah, man, I'd love to get into some of the knife EDC stuff. That'd be fun. Maybe I can find someone that's like way into EDC. I'm into it, but I'm not like deep into it. Like I have a couple of knives and random things, but nothing that's. I have a small collection. But so what I was looking at was I'm getting a bug out. I have a couple random knives up here. Nothing fancy, but I'm getting a bug out. I have my little collection of knives here. I don't have anything too super fancy for knives. And I have a couple other knives in downstairs in my little shelf that my everyday carries type thing. I'm a big fan of Tanto style, so like the Tanto style knife blade. But I'm actually become a really big fan of the, I think it's called sheep's hoof, where it's like because let's be real here, 99% of the time I'm using a knife, it's to open a box, open something, right? Like a cardboard box, or open a package or an envelope. And so these sheep hoof style or of knife where it has like that downwards, it's just so that's what I've been getting into a lot more. I have a couple of random unique ones. Like this one was a unique one that I got, which is called the Reikiri, which is interesting. Falls apart, but it's massive, so it's not really a good everyday carry. Anyways, yeah, I like everyday carries. ADHD, it's a wonderful thing. Back to what I was just saying. I ordered the bug out from Benchmade, and I'm gonna get some custom scales and some pins and kind of customize a bug out. Yeah, sheep's foot's fantastic, man. It's real here. How often are you using a knife for anything other than cutting open boxes or packages? So, and the sheep's foot just works great for that. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm actually wearing sweats. Yeah, so I am wearing pants, but not always. Oh, no, I'm fine. Now pants or shorts. But yeah. So I think I nailed most of the questions up to this point. Did you try the Burson with Verite Closed? I did, James. And the Verite Closed, if it was with the ESS Saber, it gets a little bit, because it's already kind of V-shaped, the Verite Closed with its signature, and it can be bright for some people, and also for me at times there's certain tracks where the Verite Closed it will get a little bit bright, and can be a little bit piercy with that brightness. Peaks, and with the Saber DAC specifically, as an all-in-one with the Burson, I did not like it as much because it would accentuate that a little bit too much. But with the TT2 or the Bifrost, those are the only two I paired it with outside of its ESS. The Verite Closed became very lovely. Just as an amp only, the Burson is great. But when paired with the ESS DAC that's in the amp, I didn't like it as much. yeah. That is another great thing, because a Tanto or a standard knife, well, yeah, that's a little purple Kershaw. That kind of knife point, if you drop that on your foot, that's not a fun day. That's what's that the 80s movie about the babysitter, hero babysitter movie? I don't know. That was where the right in the guy's foot. Sorry, 80s throwback. Anyhow, another thing that was pretty fun about the Burson was I was trying it as like a preamp as well. And I thought that was pretty cool. Works really well with that. It's pretty versatile with those kind of scenarios as well because of the Bluetooth module as well. You can do some pretty cool things with it and putting it in different places. And it was actually really nice, even though it's the Saber DAC, was just having the power cord and then you could put it anywhere. And then just, you know, like this thing, let me unplug the XLRs for the too. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'll plug my headphone. Like, it, I mean, I can even unplug the USB-C here, and I mean, it's you could put this almost, and then you put it on its side, and you can go into freaking, you know, you can have this in your bookshelf, for instance. Like, how cool would that be? Like, to have this like little secret, like, you know, listening station. There's just, you know, little thing, little secret bookshelf amp. But I will say, this thing is hot. It's not like I'm not burning my hands, but it's warm. And then I think because of the clear acrylic top, that the heat is not being dissipated as properly as they intend it to be. If with the stock way, because the stock doesn't have the clear cutout, and this is only a dealer only option with that clear cutout. But it does get warm. And I think this one gets warmer than it probably would in its normal configuration because of that clear cutout. But it's not like blazing hot. Like nothing would catch fire. I couldn't cook anything on it. I'm holding it right now, and it's been on for over an hour plus now. And then the funny thing is the clear part's actually not hot at all, but the aluminum is pretty warm, especially on the bottom, which obviously makes sense because that's where all the components are. But it's pretty warm. It's definitely warm. I wouldn't necessarily I don't know, put it anywhere you would be worried about heat. But it'd be cool if it was in a bookshelf that you could have like, you know, spacers on or whatever. Maybe don't put it in your bookshelf. Maybe that was a bad recommendation. Anyhow, any other questions on the Burson? I think for me, at the end of the day, I'll do a quick TLDR again. Would be as an amp, it's one of my favorite solid states. The thing that's lacking in it, in my opinion, is the Saber DAC. That's a part of the Bluetooth module and all that fun stuff. It works good enough, and I'm happy with it, with pairing it with warmer headphones, smoother headphones, with that Saber DAC, and just having it anywhere. That's kind of a really cool thing. Like I literally take it downstairs and put it like on the kitchen table, and you can just listen, which is great. And then you just Bluetooth from your phone, from Qobuz on your phone to, you know, Spotify or whatever you listen to, Tidal. Yeah, so I thought that was pretty darn cool, like a really cool feature. Another weird quirk about it that I noticed a little bit was at certain volumes, the volume pot actually dips down in volume. Like it'll be loud and it can actually get quieter, and then it'll go back up to loud after a certain point. For me, it was around the 50 to 60 range on that they would do that weird dip. And then I've seen other people say that that's kind of a weird quirk with the specific volume pot that was used in the Burson. There's a couple that were just kind of not properly, like a little bit faulty a little bit. Some are worse than others, and some don't even have it at all. But all you gotta do is contact Burson, and they'll replace it. They'll figure it out for you if that is a problem for you. And to me, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a huge issue, so not even really worth mentioning to me that much. But it is something to be aware of. The other thing would be the heat on it is a little bit warm, but it's nothing crazy. Yeah, the Hugo is not as hot. Sony's not as hot. But I mean, also this has a different. This one I can't really account for because it's not stock. It has that cutout on top, so a lot of that might be that. Yeah. Oh, the volume quirk. Another thing that for me, the volume knob is also a push button, so you have to push. That's how you do the input. So if you want to change something in settings, you have to push the volume knob in. So that's something to be aware of. And it's kind of got this like it's not quite full clicky, but it has like a little bit of a ridge to the volume turn. So it's like like kind of a, I don't explain it other than but it's not like a clicky style. It's more of just like kind of like a ridged for your pleasure volume knob. But outside of that, I'm trying to think if there's anything all these things are like superficial quirks. I don't even call them. They're not negatives, because the amp in and of itself to me is fantastic. I really love the sound signature of it, especially paired with external DACs. And the ZMS paired really well with it. All my focals, and the H800 as well was really nice with it. It was it kind of had that nice tubiness. It kind of brought that down and brought that more into line with what I liked with the H800 and tubes. I like that it actually shows the number of the yeah, and that's really nice too. Like the display itself is actually really crisp and clean, and it tells you a lot of information. And it's simple, so it's not like overly cluttered or crazy, but it works really nice. And it's the numbers are big enough to where you can see it from across the room and know, oh hey, look, I can. That's the volume at, and you get the. Oh, so this thing does have the classic all aluminum rattle noise in a controller, but that's just the buttons moving around. Oh, you can see, yeah. So that's the volume control with this little bad boy. A little bit hit or miss here and there. I'm probably not aiming at, but I think it's there. It's a little infrared sensor off to the volume knob, so that might be another factor, is it's being blocked by the volume knob. And lots of inputs, lots of outputs. It's got a standard 3. It actually has a microphone out, which I thought was very interesting as well, on it. And then your big, your big boy connector, and an XLR, and that's the gist of it. Yeah, so overall pretty good little jam. Yeah, thanks Last Rhino for jumping in with me. This is a quick stream, Sunday stream. I'm gonna go barbecue, I think, for dinner with the family, and maybe tonight I'll finally beat that giant vampire lady. Let's see here. Lone Star, thanks for joining in, man. Thank you, appreciate it. Netherlands, got a couple of Netherlands folks and some people from Germany in. Thank you. Yeah, and the window, Dr. Chibs, that was one of my big things. Like, as soon as I saw the dealer demo unit, I pinged Taryn and was like, Taryn, I need to have that in my life. Because I love that. I love being able to see inside the internal components like that. I think it's just looks so cool. It's just a cool thing. I was telling them it'd be cool if they let you control the LED strips, like maybe bring on the brightness, maybe change the color to like purple or something. But they're just pretty much on, and they're bright as all get out. So that's something to be aware of, and that's only for dealers. So maybe if enough people request a clear top, maybe they'll make another model with a clear top. Yeah, Martin, I thought that was interesting too. I never actually messed with the mic. I wonder if I can. Do I have an external? I don't think I have set it up for a mic right now. I should have done that. I didn't even think about that. It kind of was like an afterthought, because I don't think of amps as the DAC portion. But there's a little mic. Here, let me show you. It's just so right. We can get this to populate. Yeah, so right there is the mic. So I thought that was a little interesting, little tidbit on there. So I mean, you could technically use it for a lot more than just straight up amp. You can use it for maybe doing more dedicated gaming microphone, or if you're doing like a podcast, you can use that as your DAC input. I personally use USB with my little Rode shotgun mic, but or I'd use my A10 Mini with the mic input for that if I went that route. But there's all sorts of different ways to do it, but it's kind of cool that it has it. So yeah, Martin, I think there is a bunch. I think a lot of the other models below this one, I think this is their showcase one. They're kind of top of the line one, and they're smaller and a little more manageable. I think a lot of those don't. I don't think you need to have. I think there's the option to not have the DAC in there. So yeah, but as an amp, I think the Burson. I was really pleasantly surprised with the Burson stuff, man. I think it has a nice signature to it. And it's a really nice amp. It sounds really good overall. So yeah, especially like I said, pairing with an external DAC. And on that note, I think we're gonna end a little bit early. So thanks for jumping in with me, guys, and hope you have a great rest of your weekend and or evening and or morning or whatever time you're in. And then next week I'll try and figure something out to do something. Maybe I'll do I've been promising I'd do an dedicated Aeolus stream, so maybe I'll do that next week. Yeah, maybe I'll put out a thing for maybe some other stuff you guys want to see more of. Maybe we can do like a whiskey tasting or whiskey type thing, or maybe we can go for other options. I'll put up something on, like, because I now have that option to do like little polls. So maybe I'll do like a poll on what might be some cool ideas for doing other streams outside of audio, for like kind of lull weeks, what have you. And also try to get some more guests on. It's always my favorite, is getting guests on and hanging out and chatting with people, and then the live chat and getting into it. So anyways, long goodbye. I will chat with you all later. And thanks for joining, and see you all in the next one and or on the internets. Cheers, everybody. Have a good one.